Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and alongside me today is Aaron from 49ers First Takes, and he joins the show because the San Francisco 49ers have done the unthinkable, Aaron. They have gotten ahead of the curve. They have signed a player to a massive contract extension before we all sit there and bite our fingernails and wonder, is this thing actually going to get done? Because Brock Purdy has signed a massive 5-year, $265 million contract extension to stay in San Francisco for what seems like the next 6 years. He's locked in, he's loaded, he's ready to go before OTAs even begins. Aaron, how you doing? And what do you think of Brock Purdy signing a deal this soon into the offseason?
We finished our stream the other day when we did the post. We did the stream focusing on what the hell? What did we stream about? I totally just lost my brain.
It was on your channel, brother.
We were talking about, what were we talking? We weren't talking about the draft. God damn it! We'll just say that we finished it. We finished the stream talking about when we. It was the schedule. Thank you very much. In my own brain, we talked. We said, what would it be? When do you think Brock's deal is going to get done? And we both agreed July. Like we finished the stream both saying July, and literally not even 2 days later, on May 16th, 2025, Brock Purdy is locked and loaded for training camp as the new highest paid all-time 49er quarterback, and a pretty good chunk of change to land him in that, top 7 area as far as quarterbacks that are kind of around his skill set. So I'm happy. This is completely a juxtaposition of last year's offseason, where everything you could just everything was tired. Players were tired. Kyle and John looked tired. The front office was lethargic, and almost like having those extra 6 weeks for everybody to get rest and get out of the building. It's like everybody's refocused and rejuvenated to get this thing going again.
I think what you're saying is how most Niner fans feel. There'll be some that are like, oh, it's too expensive and it's going to be a bad deal. And this is the end for the Niners and the window's closed. But the way you're talking, this is a good vibes moment for fans of oh, thank God. This is not going to drag out the entire offseason. It's not going to be Brandon Ayuk or Nick Bosa again. This is done. It's ready to go. And I think that not having to worry about that kind of shows how dedicated Brock is, having seen Ayuk hold out, having seen Trent and Christian McCaffrey practice, but want brand new deals, not show up till week 1. He wanted to avoid all the mess. And that was kind of what they were saying during the year and before the year ended of I want to avoid drama. This is the most drama-free contract negotiation maybe this regime has ever done. Yep. Outside of Lenore's deal that was done during the year, this was, you're not going to hear about it. We're not going to talk about it. It'll get done when it gets done, and it got done again May 16th. OTAs haven't even begun yet, but when you sign deals like this, it begs the question, is Brock Purdy worthy of a 5-year, $265 million contract? Because as we all speculate during negotiations, last year wasn't a great year for Brock and the team as a whole, I might add. But when you sign a big deal like this, there will be people saying it's a great deal and it's a perfect deal for San Francisco and Brock, but also it has detractors already. One of those being Bobo in the comments here, who we love Bobo on the show, but they say we're talking about how overpaid and average Brock Purdy is. And that may not be a large part of the fan base, but it certainly is a loud part of it. And so, Aaron, I want to ask you, is Brock Purdy to you worth $265 million, $53 million a year over the course of the next 5 seasons?
Yes, I think he is. If you go based on the quarterbacks that are kind of in the same echelon, you want to say, as Brock, you have Lamar, Josh, Patrick Mahomes,
Joe Burrow.
You can even say Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
There's them, right? And then there's that echelon of quarterbacks like Goff, Purdy, quarterback for the Cowboys, Jalen Hurts, You have those quarterbacks that are all within the same window or window, same kind of other tier. And thank you. And Dak Prescott, Bobo, like a lot of those quarterbacks haven't accomplished even like close to what Brock has accomplished in the same amount of time. And then you couple in the fact of where he was drafted and what that meant for the 49ers, especially the year where he came in that essentially saved the season, got him back to an NFC championship game where he unfortunately got hurt. You couple all that in and you couple what he's been able to do pretty much with the same squad that Jimmy Garoppolo was tasked at, quarterbacking, and he's done so much more in such a shorter period of time, and it's been such a way better quarterback. Absolutely, he is. It's the market. It's what quarterbacks are getting paid nowadays. It would have set a bad precedent to lowball him to such an extent where essentially you're telling the league that, yeah, we don't believe in him either. So we're going to give him an extremely, like, people were talking like high 30s, low 40 millions. That was never going to happen. He was going to get paid market value. And I think the 49ers went down or sat down with him and his agent and had discussions of kind of where they rank Brock Purdy. And they probably had the same discussions about there being kind of like a couple different tiers in the NFL. And I think he got paid fair market. He's somewhere in the middle, $53 million a year. It's not 51 million, but it's not 55 million and it isn't 60 million. So he's kind of, if you're just talking like how where quarterbacks rank pay wise, as far as their tier, I think he's getting paid fair market value. This whole thing where we're always going to try to stay ahead of it and keep bringing in quarterbacks so we don't have to pay and blah, blah, blah. Eventually that doesn't work anymore. And I think the 49ers are joining the rest of the National Football League where they have to pay their quarterback and you have to make certain sacrifices. The 49ers feel that they have their guy as long as Kyle and John are here. That's their guy. They're going to stick to this guy. They're going to be connected to him. We talked off stream about like as far as it's going to take them and wherever that may be down the road. But I think the 49ers did the right thing. They got ahead of it. We talked, me, you, and probably Dre Area Sports talked about how like other teams make quarterback deals and do these deals and they don't talk about it. There's no press about it. It just happens randomly in the offseason. And with the 49ers the last couple of years, everything has been this weird, drawn out, like overproduction of just drama and stress. And for them to get it done in May sets a great precedent. It really only leaves one guy to get his money. And this could be, other than winning a Super Bowl and coming off of a Super Bowl victory, probably one of the best off seasons they've had, I'd say, in the last 3 to 4 years. So I'm happy.
One of the things you said was that, Brock didn't get $60 million. This is a $53 million a year contract. Obviously, guarantees will change what the contract value actually is, but that's a good point because Brock had every right to ask for Dak Prescott money, had every right to ask for even more than Dak Prescott, knowing how much he'd accomplished in a very short period of time, which was superseding that of Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow and Dak Prescott. Purdy could have very well asked for $65 million a year. We don't know. But that could have been on the table for him. He definitely could have asked for that. And to think that, let's say he did ask, hey, I want to match Dak Prescott's contract, which there is no proof that happening. To get that down $7 million a year to 53, I don't want to say it's a team-friendly deal, but when you put it in that context, that's a deal that guys don't sign. You're always trying to upend the next guy, usurp the guy in front of you, right? That was the Ayuk issue of he wanted about 28, somebody else got paid 30. Oh, well, now I want 30. That's how the market works. That's how your value works. And for Brock to, go to a Super Bowl and darn near win the MVP a couple years ago and be a finalist and have a lead walking off the field against Mahomes in overtime in Vegas 2 years ago, to then not get $60 million a year, to get 53. In that context, it kind of is a big win for San Francisco. Like, that is a massive win for them. And they hyper focused on that so much of like they're gonna penny pinch, they want to win these contracts, they're tired of losing these deals, and they lost Ayuk, they lost Christian McCaffrey's contract, they lost Trent Williams' contract, they traded away Debo, they lost that deal for sure. They felt like they had been kind of burned by the Nick Bosa contract. I think, at least as of now, when Brock hasn't played a single down, I think they won negotiations with him and his agent. Now, Brock wins too. He went from the last pick of the draft, an undersized quarterback that turned into a star and is getting $265 million over the course of the next 5 years. But in that context, San Francisco, to me, wins this deal because Brock could have asked for 60 and could have stuck it out and said, no, I don't care. I'm sitting out the year if I have to. And for Brock, I think he also does great at this because if you want to debate if Brock's worth it or not, he's 23-13 as a starter. Since taking over as a starter in 2022, he's first in yards per attempt, second in passing touchdown percentage, second in completion percentage, has the second most yards since 2022. He's first in passer rating. He is third in postseason wins. But the two NFC Championship games, could have won both had he not got hurt against Philadelphia. And one of the more important stats, he's never lost in Seattle. Like, Brock has done almost everything right, and he's deserved this contract. But also, I think for San Francisco, they're walking away feeling like they didn't get burned on this either, which has not been the case for them in their mind in recent contracts they've given out to Ayuk, Trent, and Christian McCaffrey.
And there's a lot of people, I was listening to some people this offseason, ESPN or whatever, NFL Network.
The pundits.
There's some people that have some pundits that have changed their tune on Purdy, and they think he did deserve to get paid just based on all the things that we just mentioned. There's so many other quarterbacks that everybody deemed better than Brock, more talented than Brock, more of a star than Brock, and yet haven't accomplished anything. What has Dak Prescott accomplished in his NFL career? He could put up a lot of yards and throw a lot of touchdowns. Wow.
They had the offense. They had the highest powered offense in 2021 and lost off a botch spike in the playoffs against San Francisco at home. That's his big moment in his career.
Brock's legacy is making it all the way, being the third quarterback, making it based on his play and the play of others around him, let's be fair, to an NFC Championship game that if he doesn't get hurt, Niners may go to the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. And then they come back the following year, guns loaded, everything looking great. And Brock has and he had an MVP caliber season. And I don't care. Oh, it's the Avengers. All he does is whatever and facilitates. Well, there was another quarterback here that all he needed to do was facilitate, and he didn't play anywhere near that level of quarterback. Do I think Brock is of the echelon that we mentioned before? No, of course not. But those guys are like generational. Like those kind of quarterbacks that we always want to compare Brock to are like, you got to suck for a really long time and then get a really good top 10 pick. That's really what you have to do. If you're a contender every year, which is everybody who's a 49er fan thinks that if the Niners aren't contenders, they're losers. You're not going to be picking in the top 10 every year. So the Niners really made out like thieves here. They got a quarterback with the last pick in the draft, and what he's given them in returns for what they gave up to get him, they've been stealing money. Okay. So the way I look at it is everybody wins. They don't pay top of the market value. It's actually a pretty good front loaded deal, which is also
$100 million guaranteed at signing, I believe.
Okay. The cap's going up. The Niners have lessened their payroll. I'm telling you, the Niners, this is more of a recalibration offseason than a lot of people realize. It was a recalibration to get people fresh, return. It was a long, all those years. And I know Kansas City's been in the Super Bowl, and people say, well, they look fine or whatever. The Niners needed to have a really nice, relaxing offseason as far as like getting players out of the building and taking time away. The front office, Kyle looks rejuvenated, John looked rejuvenated, and they've almost had a perfect offseason. And getting Brock in here, listen, Brady made a killing for years, winning Super Bowls. He didn't make a kill. The Patriots made a killing, really, with Brady winning Super Bowls and not paying Brady top of the market value. because he wanted to keep winning and he wanted to have a winning team put around him. I wonder if part of the discussion with Brock was, I want to get paid fair, but I don't want to bankrupt this team's cap where they have
Yeah.
to jettison players every single year so that I can get paid. Like, I think there was, I mean, the fact that he's practiced in good faith and he's been at the facility this whole offseason, I think it tells you a lot about him. He's a man of faith. Everybody already knows that, whatever. But he seems like he's just a really good, Midwestern values kind of person. Kind of Clark Kent. He's a good farm boy. His parents raised him well, and he doesn't seem like the type that his money is the driving force behind everything that he wants to do. So I think the Niners made out really well. I think Brock made out really well. A lot of people, I posted a little update on TikTok and people are like, no, they shouldn't have paid him. He's average. And it's like, what's your option? What is your go-to then? If you don't want Brock, who are we bringing in here?
There are some people that think that San Francisco negotiated against themselves, and I'd push back on that a little bit and say, yes, you are giving a player $53 million per year on average, right? You're giving a rather large contract. Brock Purdy is going to become, and is now, the richest player ever in San Francisco 49ers history on a per year and total contract value basis. Getting a lot of money. Like, it's not a total like, they stole money. They're giving away a lot of money here. But I think to your point about Brock Purdy knows who he is. And we've had quarterbacks in San Francisco, mainly Jimmy Garoppolo. He signed a contract and then went AWOL. You didn't hear about him, and Shanahan didn't even know where he was. They were like, there's dial tones on the other side of these phone calls. Where the hell is Jimmy Garoppolo? And Brock's there day one. He's already battled through one really serious injury, but I also think Brock isn't dumb. A lot of people think that these people are brainless. Brock's not dumb. John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, although have made plenty of mistakes, aren't dumb. Like, they've made plenty of bad moves. We highlighted those a lot during the draft process and whatnot. But I think paying Brock Purdy is one of their smarter moves. Getting ahead of this is a much smarter move for them. But also, like, Brock realizes, like, you know what? I may be a good quarterback. I may be worthy of $53 million a year, but I also know that I need Christian McCaffrey. I need Brandon Ayuk if he'll be here in a couple of years' time, if he doesn't get traded next offseason. I need to have Juwan Jennings be re-signed after this year. I need Pearsall on a number 2 contract. I need to have Demarcus Robinson back, or Trent Williams back for one more year. Who knows? He knows I need to make sure my contract doesn't get in the way of adding to this roster's talent. Re-signing George Kittle, re-signing Fred Warner. This Brock Purdy contract is not going to break San Francisco like some people think it will. I think this idea that, San Francisco, now they signed Brock Purdy to a massive contract. Oh, the window's closed. It's over. And yes, a lot of that is based on Brock Purdy himself and his play, which we'll get into that in a second, but simply based on financial value and what the cap looks like, they're going to be fine. They're going to be able to add people, draft people, trade for guys. It may not be, perfect and grandiose, but the idea that they're hamstrung, they have no money, they're against the cap, that's going to go away. This Brock Purdy deal is a smart move for him. It's a team-friendly deal in that aspect of, like, look, you ain't getting number 1 contract money, and the way it's structured, $180 million only guaranteed, which is like 7th overall amongst quarterbacks, but having 100 of that in the first couple of years at signing, that also helps San Francisco, 1, get out of the contract later down the road if he isn't great, but 2, it frees up money every single year to help them with the cap. And that's a really big thing. If you don't believe in Brock Purdy, this contract helps you help the team build around Brock Purdy so you can believe in him more as he gets older.
I think a lot of people have to look at the numbers too. Like, how much is he getting guaranteed in the first couple of years? Because that guaranteed money doesn't also guaranteed money takes away from what the actual annual base is every single year. Right. And you have to look at the annual base. And sometimes the annual base is not as high as you think it's going to be. I think what did he make it? I don't even know how much he's coming into this year.
He's $5 million.
He's making $5 million.
Yeah.
So the comment from Bobo is he doesn't deserve Geno Smith or Sam Darnold money, or if he does, or that's like the limit of what he should get. What have they accomplished? You're basing it off of last season, but we're basing Purdy's contract on body of work, not one season.
Right. Yeah.
It's a culmination of everything. Because if you're going to do that, if you're going to judge players based on each season, then there's a lot of players on this roster that should be gone this offseason.
Well, that's why a lot of fans want Kittle gone. Oh, he doesn't perform in the Super Bowl. A lot of guys don't. A lot of quarterbacks don't.
Debo didn't. Ayuk didn't.
Which Debo is gone, to their credit. But
and Ayuk could be gone.
and McCaffrey fumbled the football. Like I mean, come on. Like John Lynch said it right during the offseason. You don't get rid of good players. And Brock, for maybe all the things you don't like about him, there's a lot of great things about Brock Purdy. He plays on time. He fits the system. He does have that kind of gunslinger mentality that can get you in trouble at times. But we saw in 2023 that style of play can win you a lot of football. Don't forget, while it took some miracles against Green Bay and the Lions in the playoffs in 2023, it took Brock using his legs, being gutsy, throwing that rock around, taking some risks to win big football games. And again, Brock certainly has his weaknesses, but so does Jared Goff. Jared Goff has been to one Super Bowl. They didn't score a touchdown. And we all say, well, Goff's better. Well, Goff's better. Let's see how Jared Goff looks without McVay and Ben Johnson. Like, we don't know. And Brock's getting the exact same money as Jared Goff. It's the Jared Goff deal with inflation included. That's what this is. And if you're paying Brock Purdy, who has already shown in 2 or 3 years' time to be equally as, if not more successful than Jared Goff, you're paying him that money? That's a really good deal for a team that, believes they can contend and hopefully can in the next year or two and be competitive going forward. But I think a lot of people just see the total number and go, wow, that's a lot of money, not worth it. But once we find out the structure and what it's actually worth, like Brock's not getting any of that money this year. It's coming next year. It's $5 million this year, and that's it. And they're going to have that $40 million rollover cap. I mean, come on, this is a good deal for San Francisco, a really good deal for San Francisco. And Cal Chipto says here, technically, it's a cheaper deal than Goff. For inflation, Goff's getting $57 million a year. I mean, Brock Purdy's making less money than Trevor Lawrence.
And he's accomplished head and shoulders
9 times more.
But everybody sees Trevor Lawrence because he's 6'5", and he can throw the ball, through a wall. And the physical, it's always that's the thing I love about people is you could tell that they're not real smart football fans is they are always fooled by the stuff that doesn't mean, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that have big arms and are mobile and could do a bunch of stuff, but they can't win games.
Yeah.
And then there's Brock, pedestrian athletic ability. Yet, I mean, last year was a down year for everybody. Brock wasn't the only one that played bad. But I think he had 2 incredible seasons. One, he was a third stringer and came in, and then the year that we actually got to Super Bowl MVP caliber season. And then, everyone's if we're gonna, like I said, if we're gonna judge everything based off of last season, you need to get rid of a lot of people, not just Brock.
Right.
And then if you do, who you bringing in? Darnold? Geno?
Oh, Mac Jones.
Mac Jones? Is that your answer? Mac Jones is come on.
To some, maybe. I mean, that's dumb, but
you're not going to live this life of not paying quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So if we brought in a really good quarterback, right? He's going to take even more cap space, and there's no guarantee that he's even going to be as close to productive, even though he's maybe looked at for instance, Aaron Rodgers. There's people in here that'll say, "Yeah, sign me up in a heartbeat." But what else are you bringing in with? What's that?
People were saying trade Brock, get a 2nd round pick, and then go get Aaron Rodgers this offseason, which is just asinine.
You got a guy who's got atrophy in one of his Achilles. He's a team cancer. He's not a team guy.
On ayahuasca all the time.
What's that?
On ayahuasca all the time during darkness retreats.
Yeah, like he's a weird cat. He's not close to his family. He's just a weird. Why would you want to bring that toxicity into a locker room when you got a guy like Brock Purdy?
Yeah.
Because of what I mean, what has he ever? He's won one Super Bowl. He's been really good a lot of times, but the Niners own their ass all those for many
That
many
was
years. So like,
15 years ago.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
People are looking through the lens of stuff that happened almost two
what?
decades ago.
Brock Purdy was like 11 years old when Aaron Rodgers won that Super Bowl against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, what are we
I was
doing?
31. I'm 45. I think we're safe to say that that ship has sailed.
I mean, yeah.
I'm really old.
And look, Aaron will probably go to Pittsburgh, but when you talk about, Brock Purdy's contract, had you told Niner fans entering the offseason where our minds are like, oh, it'll be Dak Prescott, that's too much money, and everyone's worried about someone else's pocketbook and what San Francisco will give up for Brock Purdy. If we told you, I had a time machine, popped out the DeLorean and said, hey guys, I got some good news. Brock's getting $265 million. That's going to rank 5th in football, just ahead of Justin Herbert. His 53 annual average will be 7th in football at $53 million, basically tied for, if not sandwiched, between Tua Tagovailoa and Jared Goff. And his $181 million in total guarantees will rank 7th in the league ahead of Jalen Hurts and just ahead of Jared Goff. Now, we have no idea how much is fully guaranteed, so we will learn that down the road, I'm assuming. But you're getting 6 years of Brock Purdy for essentially $270 million. That's really good. that's exactly what you want. And doing quick math here, that's $45 million a year. If you want to get into semantics as to his extension not kicking in until next year, getting Brock for 6 years, $270 million. It's a $45 million a year contract, essentially. That's really good. That's astounding for what it could have been, what he could have got, what he could have asked for. Now, I'm going to ask Aaron because many people out there would say, well, nobody else was going to pay Brock Purdy $53 million a year. What is your response to that?
There's some quarterback hungry teams in the NFL that I absolutely think would pay Brock Purdy that kind of money. I think the Raiders would if they could. There's other teams out there. I can't take them off the top of my head because a lot of teams, got what they needed this past year in the draft in the last couple of years. But I disagree with that. If you were going not based off of last season, but if you were going based off those 2 seasons and he became available for a team that is a quarterback away from winning a championship, I absolutely think he would have been signed. Last year, did it hurt his value a little bit? Yeah, but it hurt a lot of people's value. It hurt Kyle Shanahan's value. It hurt John Lynch's value. The Niners had a lot of mud on their face after last season, Brock Purdy included. He played pretty poorly late in some games last year, which was really surprising because if you watch the playoffs the year prior, if it wasn't for Brock making throws and scrambling and doing a bunch of things, we don't get to the Super Bowl. People need to remember that. People have very short-term memory about the stuff that he did just previously in the playoffs. But like everybody had mud on their face last year. I do think, based on the 2 seasons where he played great, if a team had an opening that became available, yeah, absolutely. A team like New Orleans, if you told New Orleans Saints right now that Brock Purdy's available, what do you think would do? What do you think would happen? Are they going to stick with what they have? Or are they going to bring him? I think they'd bring him in. That's me though. And I'm not I was a Trey Lance guy a couple years ago, just like everybody else. Yeah. Like I drank that Kool-Aid. I didn't know what Brock Purdy was. I still don't think Brock Purdy is upper echelon, but I think he's a pretty damn good quarterback. And with Kyle Shanahan in this offense and what he has around him, I think he's going to be just fine.
And for everybody that doesn't think Brock is upper echelon, then you win. He wasn't paid upper echelon money. 7th ranked quarterback in football when it comes to contract now. 5th in total value, which again, those are always muddy because you can get out of those contracts later and guarantees change the actual value of those deals. And I'm sure if Brock plays great, they'll redo that contract. They'll lower that cap hit down the road. They can do all those things like they've done with so many other great players on the team. So I would push, I would tell people out there that if you are in the group that's like, yeah, Brock's good. Brock on some days can be really good, but he's not great. He's not one of those top 5 guys. Well, good for you and good for San Francisco. He wasn't paid like one. Like it's really hard to poke holes in how San Francisco comes out in this because they won, and so did Brock. He got paid. He is now the highest paid 7th round pick of all time. The second highest guy was like $88 million a year, and now Brock's getting 265. But John coming in hot in the YouTube chat saying Niners are going for the first pick next year. And to that, I say they're probably going to be picking in the late 20s, if not mid 20s next year. They're probably going to be a wild card team, may win the division, but that is actually a great turning point. So thank you, John. I think you're wrong, but thank you for being in here and putting the comment on there because it's a great segue into our next conversation because when you sign a contract for $265 million, you have the weight of a franchise on your shoulders. Brock Purdy, you better win some football games. You better get this team to the playoffs. And that begs the question, what would make Brock Purdy's 5-year, $265 million extension successful?
I mean, the easy answer would be to win a Super Bowl in the next 4 to 5 years, right?
Right. That's the ultimate, like, that is a bona fide you win.
Competitive play, putting us in a position to get to the playoffs and get into the conference championship game and all that stuff. What he's done the 2 previous years before last year, that kind of play. If he can return to that, which I absolutely think he can, I think he would be Super Bowl is like everybody's dream. If you were going to put that question to any team in the NFL over the next couple of seasons, of course. I just think them playing well on a consistent year in and year out basis. I know in the comments somebody said, he's Mitty G with scrambles. He's Jimmy G.
That's pretty good. I'm not going to
lie. I don't think Jimmy G took us to a Super Bowl. I think Jimmy G was carried to a Super Bowl.
Yes.
I think the Niners defense carried him that whole season. Other than that New Orleans game, which he played out of his gourd, there was a lot of times during that year where that defense had to do what it had to do to help them win games. Was he good enough in some games to help us win? Yes. But no, I'm not of the mindset that he's. I don't know, man. I don't understand what else you expect the Niners to do based on the situation at hand. Would you rather just bring it back Jimmy Garoppolo then and let Brock Purdy go by the wayside?
That is the Rams' backup quarterback, brother.
Trevor and Purdy can compete, yeah. And who's gotten to a Super Bowl and who hasn't?
And also Purdy's getting $2 million less a year. Like, technically, if you ask the Jacksonville Jaguars, I'm sure they'd rather have Brock Purdy. I mean, that's what I'd rather have Brock Purdy. Cheaper contract, only 5 years. He's been more successful. Like, look, Trevor can still be great. He has the archetype to be a great quarterback. But that's the great thing about this is everybody that wanted to compare Purdy to other guys that got paid, Trevor, Jalen Hurts, all those things, it's like Purdy's cheaper. He's a bargain to those guys in some kind of twisted way of like, well, he's cheaper. Like when I go to the grocery store and I'm looking at bread, I'm like, well, this bread's $7 and this bread's $4. Hey, I'll take the $4 bread. And guess what? I'll be just as full. I'll get just as fat. It's the same crap. Like, it's okay. Like, in that case, I'm saving $4 and I can go put the $4 into the rest of my dish. I can get some pasta. Like, it's cheaper. I don't understand that.
There's a lot of there's a lot of people that don't like Brock Purdy in this chat.
But time out for a second. John says here, I understand Purdy has never elevated his team or teammates, and that's factually incorrect. We saw what this team looked like in 2022 with Trey Lance for a game and a half, essentially. Then Jimmy Garoppolo looked pretty good for half a season, but we all know Jimmy Garoppolo has a hard ceiling to his play. Then there's Brock Purdy. This team went from going from 26 points a game to averaging darn near 30 points a game. He's one of the most efficient quarterbacks in all of football since taking over the starting job in 2022. And to ask the question, who else wanted Brock Purdy? Guess what? Nobody, because he wasn't a free agent. That's why nobody else wanted Brock Purdy. They couldn't have Brock Purdy. Like, there's a big distinguishing factor in this. He wasn't a free agent. He couldn't negotiate with anybody else. And Brock gets $53 million, $7 million less than Dak Prescott, who, quite frankly, has been a failure of a quarterback post-contract. What else could you want? And this idea that, you know, it's ridiculous he gets $265 million. That's the price of quarterbacks. You have to pay him. You can't not field the guy and say, oh, well, this guy's good enough. You can't just be good enough. You have to be really good. Like, Brock saved Shanahan and Lynch's jobs. You don't get 3 opportunities to lock a quarterback down. This is their third guy. And yes, the Niners, I think, have to be successful in 4 of the 5 years of Purdy's deal. You can have one blip. Shanahan has those. The team has those. You're going to have this, big roster overhaul we had at this offseason. You got to get successful. You have to be like instant impact contract and player for Brock. To me, they have to win at least 10 games this year. They have to go to the playoffs, be a wild card team. Those are the expectations. But, this idea that they better win a Super Bowl. Yeah.
You could say that with everybody.
Dallas.
You can win. Yeah, that's ridiculous. You could say that with everybody.
Like, yeah, you want them to. We all do. San Francisco wants to win one. The Chiefs have the expectations. The Ravens, the Bengals, the Bills, the Dolphins, oddly enough, have those expectations. They aren't very good. Like, the Rams have, everyone has those minus 4 or 5
what has Joe Burrow won?
Nothing.
What has Joe Burrow won in his
Brock
career?
Purdy, it's not less.
He's an amazing talent. I even forgot about him when we were talking about great quarterbacks.
Right.
They don't win.
Right.
The Chiefs have owned everybody in the AFC for the last 4 or 5 years.
Well,
you could make that distinction, or you can make that point about everybody.
Exactly.
There's a
Which
lot
is
of great quarterbacks that don't win.
Brock of it's only a Brock issue.
What has Lamar Jackson won other than MVPs? What's he won? Hasn't won anything.
Exactly.
If winning is the standard, then it should be even across the board. Not just for Brock because he's small and he's got a weak arm and he fumbles in the rain. All of a sudden, Brock has these unruly standards that everybody has to judge him by. But then you got quarterbacks who have more talent, who are more gifted, and they haven't even accomplished anywhere near what he's accomplished in really 2 years of starting in the NFL. If you really want to be specific, 2.5.
Right. And there's some people out there that would say, well, you could have traded for a quarterback in this year's draft class. This draft class sucks.
Who?
Tyler Shugg,
Sanders? Really? That what we're doing?
Even Cam Ward, who is the best quarterback in this draft class. 1, San Francisco is never getting number 1 overall. It was never going to happen. But 2, anybody will tell you, there's a really high ceiling with him. There's also a lot lower floor than previous number 1 overall picks. It's kind of a crapshoot. When Mel Kiper said the NFL doesn't know how to evaluate quarterbacks, I think he's wrong, but a little smidge, he's kind of right. They don't, because guess what? Nobody ever really knows. There is never a slam dunk.
But then if he's saying that the NFL doesn't know how to evaluate, then he's sucked just like everybody else has sucked.
Which,
and he gets paid tons of money.
And Trevor Lawrence, who is now paid more than Brock Purdy is even after the contract, he was the greatest thing since sliced bread, since Andrew Luck. He was the next guaranteed prospect. He's come out. He has done absolutely nothing besides 1 year in which they almost beat Kansas City in the playoffs, but still lost that game. And he's gone through 2 different head coaches, now on his 3rd head coach, which isn't always his fault, but still. Like, he's not been good enough. And Brock Purdy got paid under market value. That's the thing. Brock wasn't overpaid. By the market, Brock was underpaid and is now underpaid.
He got the market is 60 million. He got paid 53 million. He got paid
Exactly.
$7 million less than the market. That's a deal. And this whole thing, here's my question. If the thing is you don't want to pay him because he isn't worth it, okay, well, bring Joe Burrow to this team and the Niners not do anything either. They don't win anything.
Let's not.
They don't go anywhere. They don't.
I really like Joe Burrow.
What I'm saying is, if he's not winning, but he looks the part, does he get a pass because he looks the part? Because he has physical gifts and Purdy doesn't. But if they don't win, is it okay if they keep him? Like, I don't understand that. Because he looks the part and he physically has traits, that automatically gives him a pass, but he's a failure and he's accomplished nothing in the NFL worth a damn other than put up a lot of stats with two really good top receivers.
It's optics, man. It's always optics.
I don't understand that. Okay, bring him in. So here's what we'll do. We'll take Brock out of the equation. We'll bring in Joe Burrow, right? But we'll never win anything for the remainder of his career. Will people have the same ulcer in their stomach when they think about what he's getting paid? Or because he looks the part physically and he can do all these things on the football field, does that automatically like make him a better? I don't understand the logic.
It's really confusing because you have some people in the fan base that will see this and go, wow, what a terrible deal. But in reality, which is where we all live, this is a really good deal for San Francisco. A really good deal. But I do want to bring things back around quickly because to our initial conversation of what would make this deal a success. We obviously, yes, would all say you have to be and go win a Super Bowl. As with any quarterback with this team and the coaching staff, you have to win, right? You have to. But and I'll ask people in the YouTube chat and on the audio podcasting platforms, does Brock have to win a Super Bowl to be successful? Or does he have to be a consistent playoff contender? Is that good enough for you? Or are you in the camp of like, look, if Brock's having MVP seasons and he's the one dude performing out there, but the team isn't playing great, is that good enough for you? Because I tell you this, if Brock is having MVP seasons and the team is 10-7 every year, they are NFC West champions or they are a wild card team, and they're losing in the first round every single year of the playoffs, maybe get to round 2, and they aren't winning a Super Bowl, a lot of you will turn on a 2-time or 1-time MVP winning quarterback, even if you won. Like, it's really hard to win a Super Bowl. One team does it every year. And for whatever reason, the NFL gods have blessed mainly 2 quarterbacks in the last 25 years, named Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, to do it for over a decade themselves. Like, you have to pray Mahomes has a 10-year drought like Brady to ever win one, really. That's how this thing goes. And so, like, if it were me, I would say if the Niners are a consistent contender, are in the playoffs, 4 of the 5 years of the deal, and they're in the upper echelon of the NFL, they're winning 11, 10, 12, 13 games a year, they're hyper competitive, they're in games till the end, and yes, they'll be heartbreaking. You can't win every single year. But I think that would mean a success. Like, if Brock isn't the reason you're losing football games, that to me is a pretty much a successful contract. If you're winning 85% of your games and Brock is the reason or one of the reasons you're doing that, that's a win to me on the contract he's currently going to sign in the next couple of days or so. But I don't think a lot of the fan base will say that.
A lot of people 30 years ago would have said, oh, we won that Super Bowl. Like, that's going to hold me over, right? I'd rather us be bad. I mean, would you have asked those same people, okay, the Niners are going to go on like a massive drought where they don't even get to the playoffs, and then they're going to go on even a longer drought where they don't even win a Super Bowl. I think a lot of people would take a competitive team every year as opposed to a team who's going to win one and then may not win another one for 40 years.
Which that's tough because, like, my father and myself are San Francisco Giants fans. My father never saw them win a World Series until 2010. He went his entire childhood and nearly half of his adult life. They hadn't won a World Series. And in 2010, I got to see mine at like age 11 or whatever, however old I was then. It was a while ago. But then I got to see 2012 and 2014. And I think about, wow, if the Giants won one in 2010, would I have been okay had them not winning in 2012 and 2014? Maybe. But does it make me really happy they also won in 2012 and 2014 and they were the last dynasty in baseball? Like, that to me is a much bigger feat than, oh, they got one. They got one. The Cubs won in 2016. And guess what? The core fell apart and they haven't won anything since. That feels wasted. You think Philadelphia, who won one last year, they want to go again?
Yeah.
And again, like if they only win one, okay.
Bobo in the comments up above says, my point is Joe Burrow didn't get anything after he got his huge contract. Bro, that kind of goes for everybody, man. That's not just a Joe Burrow, Brock Purdy thing. Those expectations are across the board. Brock's just he's just one of the guys now. Like, that's just how it works. The Super Bowl or bust mentality that Bobo has is right. That's what you judge people by. But that's everybody. It's not just Brock. That's the point I'm making. If Brock was like this outlier and he was the only one getting paid who doesn't perform, then I could understand the argument. But there's 31 other teams every single year that don't win and have quarterbacks that are paid. Like, what are you going to do every year? You're going to gut it all every year and bring in you can't do that. It's not how professional football works. You have to build a team that can win over a period of time and at the same time be financially responsible with your cap and all that. If you're going to go based on that logic, which is what most fans go on, including myself,
as they should,
every fan base should be like, oh, Lawrence isn't worth it. Burrow isn't worth it. Lamar isn't worth it. Josh Allen isn't worth it.
Exactly.
I don't understand. That's everybody. Everybody should be like that. Listen, when the 49ers were kicking everybody's ass in the 80s and 90s, there's teams that were competitive every single year and didn't win the Super Bowl because the Niners were just a better team. That goes on with every dynasty or every era. There was teams that were really good during the Niners age. The Rams were really good. They never won any championships. Trying to think, the Saints had some pretty competitive teams. The Eagles were really good in the 80s and 90s with Randall Cunningham. They never won anything. Was Randall a bum and a bust because he didn't win? No,
was Jim Kelly not a good quarterback? They lost 4 Super Bowls,
and he lost 4 Super Bowls. No. I understand the thought and the mindset of win or nothing, but that's everybody. It's not just Brock,
right? And there should be some desperation to win, and I think this team has shown there has been. And I also think paying Brock, when you're a team that's looking for a quarterback, and San Francisco got aggressive. They went and tried to get Trey Lance. They tried to get Matthew Stafford. That deal was being talked about. The
Rams came in the 11th hour and ruined that deal. The Niners they just didn't give them enough money, pretty much.
Right, which maybe that is kind of summarizes this regime thus far. It just hasn't been enough. Which, okay, but even then, take the Rams for example. Yes, they won a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford in his first year there. Awesome. That sucks. I hate it for us, but good for them. They got their ring. The Ramley's out there popping bottles somewhere, I'm sure, holding on to that one. And all that's fair. San Francisco lost that game for a variety of reasons, mainly because the quarterback had a broken thumb and a jacked up shoulder, and Tart dropped the interception. A lot of reasons, a lot of things that go wrong, not just quarterback play, right? And so we saw the Rams got aggressive. They went and got Stafford. They went and got Von Miller. They went and got Odell Beckham Jr. San Francisco has been equally, if not more aggressive than the Rams. Now, they have bet 3 first-round draft picks on one player. It didn't work. That's the difference. San Francisco has traded for an edge rusher every single year. D Ford, Chase Young, Gregory. They've went and acquired Tavarius Ward. They've went and drafted guys, and they traded up for guys consistently.
Manuel Sanders.
They've missed on some guys where the Rams have hit. That's the difference. And that's frustrating and all that be the case. But bring it back to Brock Purdy. For everybody who doesn't want to pay Brock, or the fans that say this was a mistake, or even those that maybe are somewhat skeptical of like, well, maybe there was somebody else out there. No, there wasn't. When you have a guy in your building that you have had this much success with in 2 of his 3 years of starting, you don't move off of them. Like, this ain't Mitchell Trubisky. One playoff appearance and a dink and a doink and the game's over with and he's out of it. This guy got you and led you to a Super Bowl. That's the difference.
That comeback against the Lions, was on Brock Purdy's arm and legs.
And that was 2 years ago, and I get it. It's what have you done for me lately?
But that's everybody.
Right, and San Francisco is telling you, me, and the fan base, they believe in Brock Purdy. In fact, Kyle told Jed York on the practice field 3 years ago, hey, we have a problem. The fourth guy is the best one. What do we do? They've known for 4 years he was the guy. Now, that sounds crazy to say because he wasn't a starter there and he wasn't even the first backup, but they've known for 4 years this was the guy. And with the escalating market price of quarterbacks, they got a deal on a dude they believe can win. And I think a lot of people's issues with Brock Purdy are a culmination of the failures of previous regimes, the Harbaugh one especially, the earlier Shanahan loss in which Purdy was not even a part of, and a lot of their frustrations with Kyle himself are then pushed on to Brock because I think Brock, he doesn't have the big arm. He doesn't have the Lamar Jackson legs. He doesn't have, the Josh Allen, bulldoze you over body. But what he's got is a high IQ. He's intelligent. He's hyperly accurate. If that's even a word, hyperly. I have no idea if that's actually a word. But he does everything Kyle wants. And if Kyle is going to tether himself to Brock, you may not like that. But that should give you some confidence that they believe they can win. Now, it may not. But that's why they're okay paying him $53 million a year, which in fact is a bargain based on the market.
It is. It's a bargain. It's going to be, listen, we're like people, like Bobo said, we'll find out.
Right.
That's all you can do now. You build your team every year to be competitive to try to win a championship, and then you just let it happen.
So
if this isn't Madden, you can't turn off the salary cap and sign everybody. And you know what I mean? Like, you have to play within the constraints of, the NFL and how it works. Like you said, like, if you have a guy in your building who's productive and can do things, and he might not be, quote unquote, that elite level guy, but you have a quarterback in your building, you can't just say, now we're good. We're good. We'll go into the season with Tanner Mordecai as our quarterback. Like,
hey,
no.
He was dropping bombs during minicamp, brother, to Isaiah Naylor out there. You saw the video.
Yeah. But we'll see. You do that when it matters.
Yeah. So I think a lot of fans, and there is a part of me too, because I was talking about this during the year, that the fans that don't like Kyle, that want him out of town, they're done with him, they don't believe in him. Okay, it's fine. A lot of big game losses to hold your point up and have some credibility behind it. I got to ask you this, though, because when any head coach and any GM tethers themselves to a quarterback and signs a guy to a 5-year, $265 million extension, and that guy is 26, 27 years old in the prime of his career, you are tying your career as a head coach and GM to that player. With that said, does this contract start the doomsday clock a-ticking for this regime? If Brock Purdy fails, is it night-night, a la Stephen Curry in the playoffs, not against the T-Wolves because he didn't play a single game, for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch?
Yeah, it is. If they're not successful the next couple of years with Brock, and they continue to either be the most injured team and not make the playoffs, and play poorly, everybody's fair game to be fired. Brock, Kyle, John, everyone needs to go. That's how it works in professional sports. It's a winning business. Now, if they're competitive the next 5 years and they just don't get it done, maybe Kyle gets taken out to the pasture and they bring another coach in here.
Get old Gellert.
Yeah, like maybe Kyle's the problem, and maybe somebody comes in here and is able to finish the job with the same players. I feel like this whole regime is kind of tethered to each other. And I'm talking about Kittle, Warner, Bosa. Everybody's tethered to everybody. So the scary thing is if it doesn't work, they may blow up everything. And then the Niners will be also Rams and no one will care about them. So we have to hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, I agree.
It does feel like that when Kyle and John, mainly Kyle, was like, I want Brock to be here as long as I'm here. That kind of felt like, okay, this is it. This is the guy that we are going to give our best shot to win with. And that may take a year, recalibration, which I think has kind of been this year. And I think, one thing I think Niner fans forget is that they can be aggressive in the next 4 years. Now, they may be less aggressive. They may have to cut some corners here or there on some pieces, but that's why you draft well and you hopefully those guys can hit. That's why you traded away Deebo Samuel. That's why you didn't bring back Hufanga. And it's why you cut Floyd and Malik Collins. And again, you can bicker on those things, but there's a reason why this offseason was like, what are we doing? Why are we gutting the defense? And for all we know, in 1 year's time, you have to get a new defensive coordinator in here, or maybe it's Gus Bradley, who's already on the building as an assistant to Saleh or Kyle. Which actually, thinking about it now, probably makes the most sense.
Yeah, I think that he is definitely the answer if Saleh leaves. Hopefully, Saleh is here for a couple of years, but we'll see.
Which that'll be great because then it gives you a lot of. I don't say a lot of time, but it certainly gives you a broader window of, okay, we have the DCs, don't have to replace the fourth guy in 4 years. This is terrible. But I think, with Brock under contract, I don't think San Francisco is going to get less aggressive. I don't think they're not going to try new things. Jed will pay up front if it's worth it. That was the thing. Is that Jed got tired of paying up front for players and paying high guarantees and paying these high kind of bonuses to players that weren't worth it. San Francisco will be aggressive still. They'll re-sign their guys if they're worth it. They'll be maybe more smart about it. In future deals, they may be a little more penny pinching on some guys that they're like, well, you're on kind of the fence of are you worth it or not? But I think if they're, say this year alone, they walk into the year $40 million in cap space. If they are, I don't know, at the deadline and they're 5-3 and they're, 6-2, they're going to get aggressive. They know the window is now. They're not going to refrain from buying a player for a year. If they're in 2 years' time and Brock is 28, 29 years old and hey, there's 2 years on this deal, we got to win.
Yeah,
if they got to get a left tackle,
if somebody shakes loose from another team and the Niners are that player away from possibly getting back to a Super Bowl, I don't think the Niners are all of a sudden going to be like, no, we're not interested. No, they'll make that deal. They'll sign that guy for 6 games. Listen, the D Ford and all those guys that brought in that 2019 team, it sucks that they didn't win and, D Ford's body fell apart, but it got them to where they needed to be. They just didn't finish the deal. It was... They were aggressive that year. They've been aggressive. I mean, shoot, they almost signed. They were in the discussion to get Stafford. It just the Rams offered more money.
Well, and there's also Chase Young. There's Randy Gregory, and some of those deals work, and some of them don't work. Gregory didn't work. Chase Young was certainly up and down, which is why he wasn't brought back. But San Francisco is usually making one. Even last year, they made a trade for Khalil Young, or Khalil Davis, excuse me. He's not very good, but they were like, hey, 7th round pick, whatever. Like they were even somewhat aggressive, if you want to call it that, in a really down year for a player they wanted depth out of. So I don't think it changes their philosophy. I think it actually, in a way, makes them more aggressive. They aren't searching for a quarterback now. They have the guy.
I can go, yeah.
And now they're not going to trade 3 first-round draft picks for a freaking dinghy out in the water and say, save us. He can't even float, brother. He's drowning too. And so I think this gives them the opportunity. in a roundabout way, although paying more money to a quarterback, they can get and target the guys they like on the market and unafraid to pay money to big name players if they have to. And I think that's a big thing. Like, they were never really bought in on Jimmy, especially Kyle. And they got one training camp a Trey and were like, oh my God, this may have been a mistake. And now they are completely bought in, sold out, hashtag WCW in the mid 2000s on a quarterback. Like, they are for life Wolfpack for Brock Purdy. Exactly. Too sweet for Brock Purdy. That to me is that is a really good place to be, where you had a regime ready to win, roster ready to win, and had two quarterbacks. They were like, one foot in, one foot out. Now it's like, no, we are all gas, no brakes. Shout out Robert Saleh. He's back in the building. Let's go get this thing done. It may not happen, but it like Brock Purdy getting a bargain deal, $53 million per year. They're going to get aggressive.
Yep.
And they're going to make some moves. We all say, wow, they're paying Brock how much and still did that? Just watch out. That's going to happen in the next couple of years or so. It has to.
Yep, I agree. 100%.
All right, Aaron, I have one final question. Because Brock signed his contract, or is going to in the next few days or so. It isn't official just yet. So, fingers crossed it becomes that way in the next couple of days. But are there signs that San Francisco is not going to play this waiting game anymore with contracts? Lenore's deal was done during the year last season, I believe. Kittle's deal was done 2 weeks ago, just after the draft. And Brock Purdy's deal was done before OTAs.
I think.
Are the winds changing when it comes
Yes.
to how San Francisco does contract negotiations?
Yes. Especially after last season, how bad last season was, and all these contracts ran essentially into the beginning of the season. Like the whole Brandon Ayuk thing was an absolute just embarrassment. It was just horrible. It was just it was a major distraction. Then he got hurt to boot. I think that they learned a valuable lesson about getting stuff done and getting the football, non-football stuff, or the front office non-football stuff done in the time that you're supposed to get it done during the off season, and save training camp and all that practice time to get better at your craft. Stop having it all spill over into that time, because you could say what you want to the media, players, but it is a distraction.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, speaking of players that haven't signed deals, we had an offensive lineman who we thought we guaranteed money to a couple of weeks ago, and he's not even coming to the 49ers.
I have a feeling that he's not signing at all. They signed 2 tackles already since they reportedly signed him, and something was up, whether it was a medical issue or a money issue. I don't think he's coming to San Francisco at all, that being DJ Humphries.
Yeah, DJ Humphries. And then they just signed a kicker today, too.
Was it Greg Joseph?
Yeah. Everyone thinks
Whatever.
it's the end of of Moody. I don't think it is. I think Moody's starting week 1.
Yeah,
I hate to say it.
The Jets also released their punter and kicker. Maybe Brant Boyer's like, hey, Kyle, you want 3 kickers on the roster? Who knows? Like,
you want to purge everybody and come bring in the we'll do the East Coast or like New York Jets West or something, special teams version.
Exactly. I mean, they have to go to MetLife this year, so it may be worth it eventually. But
yeah, don't even remind me of that place.
It's hell. I am dreading watching this team play in New York. Yeah, I'm like, Bosa don't play, Purdy don't play, CMC don't play. Jordan James can play. Patrick Taylor Jr. can play. Not Christian McCaffrey. But I do think you're right that all of this talk of San Francisco penny pinching, I think a lot of that is we don't have to spend as much if we actually are proactive in our deals.
Right.
Like
hit in the draft,
they would have saved $8 million had they not waited on Ayuk.
Yep.
And so I think them being proactive will actually make this front office more willing to pay players early. Like, oh, we can get that guy for under market value like Brock Purdy. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that a smart thing? Like, why wouldn't you do that? Right.
Should always the organization should always win in negotiations. It shouldn't be the player. That's how it should be.
The money should be good enough for the player, although sometimes organizations shut. Like the Bengals are not going to pay Trey Hendrickson now, I guess. They're not even talking to him. Like what are you doing, Cincinnati? But this is a really good day for Niner fans.
It
Like,
is.
I'm really happy. And
Me
I
too.
think every Niner fan should be, even if you don't like Brock Purdy, which is crazy. But even if you are like, well, Brock is just good, but not good enough. I think this is a really, this should be a celebratory day. The vibes are good. After a really crappy season where all hell broke loose and literally Murphy's Law, everything that can go wrong went wrong for them. To get Brock Purdy's contract done before OTAs, no one saw that coming. Like we said July. This happened in May. It's 2 months before we all thought it was going to get done. That's we should be somewhat popping bottles and confetti falling from the ceiling. Like let's have a party.
I
This
don't have
is a
any
new
Cristal, but I might have some grapefruit juice,
some Martinelli's in the fridge.
wine
Well,
coolers. I don't know.
all right, Aaron. Before we go, I want to tell everybody watching and listening on the audio podcasting platforms if you want to see your Niners play and your newly cemented quarterback of the next 5 years for $265 million, that being Brock Purdy suit up for the red and gold this year, go to SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 off your first purchase by using promo code 49ers Access, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com. You can also follow us on social media at 49ers.access is the Instagram, and 49ers_access is the X and Twitter. Aaron, where can they find your podcast and show as well?
49ers First Takes YouTube, 49ers First Takes Instagram, 49ers First Takes TikTok. That's where you can find me. I will be back to my normal, or I'll say R, because there's going to be a lot of collaborative efforts as we get closer to the season. The content will definitely pick up as the year goes on. So if you're into like weekly content during the season where we talk about the games and preview other games, 49ers First Takes is where it's at. I also upload daily if there's any news. So 49ers First Takes is where you can find it.
You can go ahead and subscribe to Aaron. You also can like, share, and subscribe to this channel here on the audio podcasting platforms. Give us that free and hopefully a pretty good 5-star review on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcast as well. For Aaron, my name is Sterling Bennett. Congrats to the San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy, a brand new 5-year, $265 million deal. This has been 49ers Access. And as always, until next time, stay faithful.